All right. Welcome to another episode of Old Gold. Thank you for tuning in. For this week's episode, Jeremy and I have a very special guest for you. As you might know, one of the gold mines that we raised funds for, and that's also a part of Chancery Royalty, is a mine in Arizona called Gold Road. And on Wednesday, July 1st, Gold Road was officially listed and went public on the Oslo Børs exchange. So we're all very proud of that, and it's a very exciting time. So we're very happy today to bring you our guest for this week, Svein Harald, who is the chairman of the board at Gold Road and a very integral figure in the success of Gold Road and its path to listing. So welcome, Svein. It's great to have you on. Thank you for putting some time aside to be with us today. And maybe you can give us a bit of your background and tell us a bit of the story about, bringing Gold Road from where it was to now being, very successful in a producing gold mine that's now publicly listed.
Yeah, so thank you, Eric. And of course, I would say my life has been a journey. And one of the last things I did was to co-found an oil and gas company in Brazil called DBO Energy. And we acquired assets from Petrobras, the national oil company in Brazil. And our best transactions where we found assets that had an established infrastructure, that were in production, that had a production that generated a cash flow, but also had additional growth opportunities, exploration targets, and so on. Those were the dream targets. And then by coincidence, also thanks to Jeremy and his team, at some point in time I believe in May last year, I got the opportunity to go to Arizona and visit the team in Arizona. And not only did I really like the team there, led by Jim, Raj, and Alex, but I also saw exactly what defined the best transactions that we did in oil and gas. Not in oil and gas this time, but in gold. Right? So I saw established infrastructure, the only dedicated integrated plant for gold processing in the entire Arizona, which in itself is remarkable. I saw the possibility, also of course initiated by Jeremy, to run tailings from all mines so that you could basically generate cash. There was an existing mine, the Gold Road mine, which you also could be put back in operation quite easily. And then within the Gold Road mine, there were a number of production opportunities. There were growth opportunities in the mine with extending the mine. And the further you went kind of in the mine, the more you would found. And if that wasn't enough, in addition, there was another parallel vein, actually twice the size of Gold Road, called the True Vein, or Tom Reed United Eastern, that in oil and gas, we have something we call elephants, right? That's the really big fields that you kind of stumble across, right? So, without overdoing it, so the True Vein is our elephant, right? Not elephant in the room, but elephant in the find as a certain as a considerable opportunity. So we had all this, and then of course the possibility to get in. I decided to make an investment myself, and then as we learned to know each other, I offered to take a larger role, eventually then becoming chairman, and then of course also mobilizing capital, and then of course at some stage we noticed that there was quite some traction in the Nordic capital market on Gold Road, and on that basis we basically made a decision to, instead of being a small fish in the big Canadian pond and drown in between all the others, let's make the most out of it and really try to make a difference here in Oslo. So that was a long story, but now I guess you have the totality, and then it's easier to dive into each aspect.
Well, maybe I can also chip in here, Eric. I mean, it's such an honor to have Svein Harald as chairman. I knew when I first met Svein Harald that he would be the perfect chairman, and also I think as the journey grew, the perfect public market being Oslo, and the tremendous support we've received from the Norwegian investor base. And when you go to Oslo and you walk down the road with Svein Harald, he's very well known. He's a celebrity in town, and everyone says, "Hey, Svein Harald, what's your next deal?" And he says, "I'm doing gold." And it's an absolute honor to have him and Svein Harald and Niels, our CEO, to be running the business now, because as you know, we're very good on the private side. We're very good at doing early stage acquisitions, putting them together, and then finding world-class management teams and putting them on the market and letting them run that. And I think that's why I'm so bullish so bullish Gold Road. Like, I think, as Svein Harald said, the potential with the True Vein, the potential with the 4 other mines that are currently dormant, very high grade, and the only permitted, fully integrated CIL circuit in Arizona. It's just amazing what we have there, and I know it's going to do great things under Svein Harald's leadership.
No, thank you. And I guess almost to repeat myself a bit, but to really underline how specific this is, or how outstanding opportunity we have, is that, again, we have a fully invested processing plant. It costs $100 million to build it, right? And it takes forever. And if you were to build that plant, you would also have to spend lots of money on exploration, right, to really prove up the base. We don't need to do that, because the prior owner, they drilled 170 drill holes that we can benefit from. The old timers, as we call them, the ones who ran the mine in the past, they took samples everywhere where they went. So we have like 80,000 samples, and that we can then process and analyze. And then, since our infrastructure is very wide-reaching, that means we can access new areas at a very low cost. It takes a week or two, right, to drill up and enter a new area through a new drift or a new shaft, right? So, for example, yesterday we had a meeting, and we discussed, should we try to go into what's called the Red Top East? And the guy said, yeah, we can, and we can start tomorrow, right? Because we can drill our way up through the vein, and by that we will access new pockets of gold in the mine. So, yeah, quite special, the whole thing, actually. And we have a video that you should provide a link to, Eric, from the mine with the 3D modeling. That also should be interesting for the viewers.
Eric, maybe I'll chip in there, because I do think this whole what we have at Gold Road is a go west young man mine from the gold rush era, a bit later than that, but 4 of, I think, of the 5 mines, and correct me if I'm wrong, Svein Harald, closed in 1942 for the War Act, so that the miners could focus on mining lead or at another mine. And they've been left there ready to turn back on with significant grade and significant gold in them also. So personally, my gut feeling is, and I know Svein Harald can't say this because he's public, but my gut feeling is at least 1 million ounces of high-grade gold just on our tenements. And, there's so much potential there to grow the business, expand with higher grade, and slowly replace the lower grade tailings, that are kind of grading 0.6, 0.7 grams, with 3, 4, 5, 6 gram underground feed. And that's what's really going to take the business to the next level. Would you agree with that, Svein Harald?
Yeah, allow me to take a bit the oil and gas kind of palette, right? Because all the Americans, and because most people now have heard about the Permian, right, in Texas, right? And there was all the oil was supposed to have been produced, right? But then, of course, at higher prices, with new technology, new opportunities can be pursued, right? And it's even more spectacular compared to what you said, Jeremy, for once, I think, because these mines in the Tom Reed United Eastern, they actually peaked in the early 1920s, and at that time the gold price was $20 per ounce, which today's value is around 400. So they mined with the kind of 1924 technology and cost at a price of 400. Then they say, oh, it's empty, we go home. But of course it was empty in the context of the technology of that time and of the price. So most of the mines, actually the big ones, they were shut down in 1924. Then, interestingly enough, in 1935, the gold price went from 20 to 35. So then basically a lot of the mines restarted again, because you suddenly have this enormous spike in gold prices from 20 to 35. But then all of them, as you said, Jim, were shut down in November 1942, because there was a law in the US passed that prohibited gold mining, so that everyone could focus on the war effort. And then everything was definitely shut down. So this example I mentioned, where we are now working in Gold Road, there was a guy back in 1941, 42, they were up there looking for gold. They made drifts so that they could access the area, and they made samples. But then in November they had to shut down the whole thing, and they left. And then eventually the shaft and so on became collapsed and so on. and it was all forgotten. And then I guess the story says that in the late 1990s there was a guy knocked on the door. He said, "Why aren't you guys up there?" Because I was there in the 1941, doing the mining. Then at that time he got a cup of coffee and asked, "You're going to leave the property, right?" So, but now, of course, we are benefiting from his wisdom, right? And that's one of the opportunities we can pursue. So we have all these stories, and similarly, actually, from the 1924 when they were shut down, they wrote down in the protocols, right, the grade they had at the day they shut down. And it was like 0.5 ounce per ton or whatever, 18 grams. That was the cutoff point at that time, right, for what was economic. So their cutoff point was 18 gram. Our cutoff point is 1 gram, right, or in ounces. I guess their cutoff point was 0.5, and our cutoff point is 0.03 or something. So, and this is very important, again, learning from oil and gas, because in oil and gas you see that these old oil fields, right? There's nothing. This idea that something is empty is completely wrong, right? Because it's not empty, right? It's empty in the context of the price, the technology, and the access to infrastructure. And we have a good price. We have a much better technology, and especially now, I believe on the kind of imaging and visualization and analytical tools that we have available to us. It's just on a completely different planet, right, compared to what they had. And even the last 10 years, there have been, or even today, right, from day to day, there are remarkable progress that we can benefit from in our mind, especially as we then also have all the infrastructure. So, yeah. But it's hard to make promises, right, to be very clear, because, it's all depending on the dynamics that will play out and how we can sort of progress step by step.
Svein, Harald, can you maybe take a step back and talk about the listing you did on the 1st of July? How much did you raise when you did that? And what will you use with that money to... Are you going to grow the business now? What's your vision there?
Yeah, so thanks for that. Yeah, so we worked, of course, for a bit formal reasons. First we had to re-domicile, so to a country that was compatible with the Norwegian listing requirement. So we had to move the headquarters to Malta, but that was more like it was an effort that had to be done, and when that was done, we could move forward. Then, of course, everything. Yeah, it wasn't. It was a bit of an effort, right? Because you need to have everything needs to be quality assured, right, before you go public. And of course, we have 120 years of history, so it's a bit of an effort, right? Because the lawyers they showed me the copy of the contract, right, and then the contract was signed in 1920, right? So anyway, so all this, but then we also worked with an investment bank, Pareto Securities. And then on that basis, of course, they conducted their analysis on the company. They prepared investor presentation, and then we started investor dialogues. Also, of course, interestingly enough, with the largest shareholders in the company, and the largest top 5 shareholders, they subscribed for more than half of the capital raise, which shows how inspired the current shareholders are about the journey of the company. And so they were not really, they were not in there to sell. They were in there to develop this thing further. And quite prominent shareholders, I would say, also joined the party, to put that way. So then, based on this interest and formal commitment from the top 10, we decided on a total deal size of $15.5 million. Most of it was then primary capital raise, 13.5. And then after this first kind of indication of interest, there was a broader discussions with the investor community, and based on that we actually got quite hefty oversubscription. So some people only got 20% allocated compared to what they wanted, because we didn't have enough shares for everyone. So the ones who came in last, basically only got 20%. So that's a good sign, because it shows interest in the company. So I think that's about it. Most of it is Nordic investors. Again, most of them were old investors, and then a couple of sizable new investors that came in. So And of course, we also had to do capital raise all along the way. We had to do capital raise when the mine was acquired, right? As you know, Jeremy. And then through last year, because the mine was acquired in May 25. So it's quite remarkable. It's a very short period of time from the actual acquisition to the listing, like 1 year and a month. And I wouldn't say too much, but with quite attractive returns for the investors who have been part of that journey and took the risk to come in early. So I'm very pleased about that. And then already in June last year, we say, okay, let's embark on this mill restart process. And then in August, only 2 months later, we started to haul the tailings from the old mine. So basically bring material to the processing plant. And then in September 11, and I make the joke because we are supposed to start the mill in the morning, but we were behind schedule, so we started in the afternoon, right, on the 11th. And then that was started to run the tailings in September 11, exactly on the right day. And then we started working on the underground mine to get that restarted. We decided to basically delay that a bit to manage risk, right? So we wouldn't have the risk of having to incur the underground cost while also working on the startup. So we tried to be very thoughtful about basically managing the risk and the totality. And then in December 25, we then restarted the underground operation, and it's been ramping up ever since. But of course, you need to hire people, you need to train people, you need to do the upgrades. So, you have to spend money, right, in order to get the whole system to work. But so we did capital raise all the way through last year up until I guess we closed the last one in February, and then we pushed hard through the early part of this year so that we could, and we always try to have the aim, as in Norway, everything has to happen before the summer, right? So, we aimed for the IPO before the summer, and it's still not summer, so we made it.
It's incredible. And that of that 13 odd million you've raised, is that going to go in underground development? Will it, Svein Harald? What's
that's the largest part is for growth project, right? So we don't need a lot of capital for growth projects because we have the benefit of the current infrastructure. So, but I believe around 4 million is allocated to growth projects. Then we have acquired, which of course also is growth, because we acquired kind of new mining equipment like hauling trucks and loaders and so on. $2 million are allocated to that, plus like a diamond drill kit, so we can do kind of some, not exploration drilling, but some kind of drilling to help target new pockets of gold. And then we are buying back like one of the royalty arrangements that we had on the mine, because we think we'll increase production, so that we think that's attractive. And then we had took on a bit of shareholder loans just to get through the last part of investment phase, and this we also have to repay. So those are the main categories that we have. So most of it with the hauling trucks, the equipment, and the kind of new mining targets will be growth oriented. Yes.
I remember, Svein Harald, when I first visited Gold Road in April last year when they came on the market. I wasn't only blown away by the incredible infrastructure and it's in prime time America, but just by the amazing team you have there with Jim Cooley, Raj, Alex, Kelly. I mean, talk a bit about that. I mean, those guys are serious operators, aren't they?
Yeah, no, it's a fantastic team, and if I'd met a different set of people the first time I was there, then I wouldn't have made the investments, right? I wouldn't engage myself, because they also, one is that they have the experience, they have the competencies, but they're also a good match on what we are trying to achieve, right? This mine, of course, has been producing. It's been shut down for many years. And two of them, Alex and Jim, they have been there for ages. Jim is the general manager and the COO with particular capabilities on how to run the mine, and the mill, and he knows every detail of it, right? So he can just look out the window and hear the sound, and then he knows what's going well. Alex's father used to be the underground superintendent, I believe, and then now Alex is the underground superintendent. So I've asked him, like, if I put a blindfold for on your eyes and take you anywhere in your mind, will you be able to tell us where you are? And he said yes, probably. So, and it's a big mine. Like, believe me, I've been down there. I've been down all the way down to the deepest level. I think one of the guys said the chairman of the board has never ever been down there. So that was the first ever. But I think that's also say it is a bit of a symbol of what we try to achieve, right? That we know what's our ambition. We know our obligation to our shareholders, right? We need to work hard. We need to be very practical, be very focused, and make the most out of the opportunity that we have been given, right? So, and then of course also it's quite amazing because in mining there are every day there's a hiccup, right? And of course we run a 24/7 operation, right? With a day shift and night shift, and even when big problems occur at night, the people who are working the night shift, they basically fix it, right? It's not like, okay, we'll wait to the morning and fix it in the morning, and the new guys who come in can do it. No, they start they start at 2 a.m. in the morning and mobilize the team and start fixing the pump or whatever that needs to be fixed. And that's that attitude that we need, right, in our system to succeed.
The other thing that really struck me, Svein Harald, was when the mine last closed in November 21, it was operated by Aura Minerals, and many of our viewers will know Aura. It's a very famous company. They obviously, the gold price then was about $1,800 an ounce. They had $30 million of debt, I think, sitting on top of them, and they were struggling in a low price environment with a lot of debt, and they spent a lot of money modernizing, drilling. They kind of left all that for you. But now the price is nearly 3 times that. The debt's been written off when we bought it, wasn't it? So you're debt-free, pretty much, and you are debt-free and in a much higher gold environment. So you've really got the wind behind your back now, haven't you?
Yeah, and of course, Aura, they went on to pursue opportunities in South America, I think, quite successfully, right? And their share price has gone up 10x, right? So it's like, it's not that they weren't successful. They were, of course, so there's all reason to underline that. But then, of course, there was a peculiar structure that they had at Gold Road, and they were a listed company. They are a listed company, and they reported Gold Road actually as a separate segment. So all this is public knowledge. But they actually had a vendor financing of their acquisition. So they had a 30 million kind of contingent debt that they could get away from if they shut down the mill. So they had a very strong incentive to shut down the mill. We don't have that incentive. We have a very strong incentive to produce, right, at max speed. But that debt structure was also written off. They made big investments, as I say. They drilled 170 drill holes, and that we are benefiting from. They made half the acquisition payment for acquiring Tom Reed United Eastern Vein, that we are also benefiting from. So there's all reasons to thank them, but also of course for the effort they did, right? At the same time, I think it's also important. It's important in Gold actually to not, how to say, it's a small mine, right? It's a small plant. It can be very profitable. Like in 95 to 98, they produced actually 40,000 ounces per year, because when they access, and of course if you have those kind of volumes, the profitability is insane, right? Will we succeed on that? Well, I would say probably not, but because we have that, we know that it's possible, like theoretically, if you really have the so. But it's also important to recognize that it is small, right? So because it is small, you need to work in a very lean way. You cannot have too many layers like of management. You can't have too much kind of luxurious habits, and you just need to run this as a very, very kind of how to say, front end focused operation, right? So I think yeah, that's also, I believe, an important learning. And I tell sometimes people, like, yeah, just like cool down, like we step by step, let's do it, because we have this enormous privilege that we have, again, the infrastructure, we have the ongoing production, we have all the targets from the past and the drilling results, and we have zero interest-bearing debt on the balance sheet. So which is also quite rare, I think, for a startup company.
What is your market cap now, Svein Harald, after the fundraising? I've lost track now. What is?
It's around $60 million, I think.
So wow,
So
it's literally 20 cents replacement value, maybe, if that. Yeah.
yeah,
What's the ticker in Oslo then? Is it got
it's gold R.
fantastic? Yeah. Svein Harald, I think.
It's not gold, but gold was taken, so we had to go for gold R.
Okay. I think one other thing I'm really keen to ask you about is you have a very amazing CV. You're chairman of Norwegian Airlines. You stepped down from that to focus on Gold Road. You've been chairman of many oil companies in Norway. But the one role that I found fascinating was you were parachuted into Iceland during the financial crisis of '08 as the central bank governor of Iceland, which I think you told me was the first that's never had a non-Icelandic central governor, and you basically turned the country around from bankruptcy. Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah. Well, actually, yeah. It's not only the first in Iceland. I think it's the first in the history of mankind, right? So where someone who wasn't a citizen of a certain country became the governor of that country, because it's not normally a task that you assign. So, yeah, of course it's on my fund account, right? That happened. I will get back to it. I probably will also be the only central bank governor with his own gold mine, right? So that's and also. We have more mine in the Gold Road mine than we have in the Norwegian Central Bank, because they aren't that gold heavy anyway. So yeah, we are running a very serious business, but we also need to have some fun. Yeah, no. On a serious note, because I was in my past, I'm an economist of training. I worked in the Norwegian Ministry of Finance for 10 years. Ended up as a deputy minister of finance in Norway in 1994. At that time, we actually had our Norwegian banking crisis and the currency crisis and macro and all kind, before everything got in good order, and the country has been prospering since then. But given that background, because when Iceland got into troubles after the global financial crisis, I was called upon to lead the central bank for a short period of time, and take part in the turnaround effort. A lot of other people made a difference. Of course, I tried to do my best. I also headed the reconstruction committee for the Icelandic banks, who 95% of the banking sector went down actually in a week, and then through all kind of for different reasons, I ended up being the head of the execution committee for the bank kind of recovery process, which added new capabilities to my CV. So that it was a great experience, great people, a very competent team that I worked with. I've written a book about it, so I can take the chance to recommend it. It's called In the Combat Zone of Finance. So I think it's a pretty rare, because it's an inside story, of course, what happened before, what happened under the crisis, but also what happened afterwards, right? And Iceland actually became, I believe it became the country that recovered the fastest after its financial crash in the global financial crisis. So. Exactly. And some are just working their way back in the mess. Yeah. Which of course also touches on the importance of gold, right? Because I guess that's another point. I don't make predictions about gold, because, but because we do benefit, of course, from a high gold price, and of course there are lots of drivers. Like one is just the basic consumer demand, right? As I said, there's not enough gold in the world for everyone to get a wedding ring, right? So if suddenly 1 billion Chinese people want to get a wedding ring, like actually global demand goes up by whatever 15%, and not for the yearly production. Now I'm talking the total accumulated production of gold over the history of mankind, right? That isn't sufficient to give everyone a wedding ring. I'm not saying that's the most important thing to get, but yeah. So you have this enormous growth in consumer demand, right? In India, in China, and of course gradually in other countries that sort of that gets to a higher level of wealth. Of course, many high net worth individuals, they do want to have gold as part of their portfolio as the ultimate kind of security if things go. And I think I made, Jeremy, you calculate this, but if everyone, I don't know exact number, but everyone that has a certain high net worth were to have 0.05% of their portfolio in gold, what would the clearing gold price be? And I believe we are talking $40,000 per ounce or something. And that's not my prediction, but that's even more bullish than you are, Jeremy. And then, of course, you have the central banks, right? And you have the stable coin, right? And you have a number of countries that just wants to strengthen their financial position. They use gold as a part of their effort to build themselves as a global financial hub. So there's just all these drivers that come together nicely. In the short term, of course, there are all U.S. interest rate policies, as we see in the last days. So it's a mix, but there are underlying drivers that are there. I think that will pull it up if it falls to a lower level, and then one of the most basic being the underlying consumer demand, right? And then we have interesting demand segment because we have all the tech thing, right? Because you actually 10%, I believe, of gold goes into different technology applications, right? Into electronics, into the satellites. So the more satellites Elon Musk sends out in space, the more gold will forever be lost. So I think it's more probable that he will send more gold to Mars than what he will bring back from Mars.
That's an interesting point, actually. Yeah, it's true.
So this could be a perfect time for you, Svein, Harald, as you ramp up production, gold prices keep going up. Are you thinking of paying a dividend maybe going forward? I know it's hard to make that prediction when you're a public company. I know Norwegians love dividends, don't you?
Yes, we do, and I think it's also like in all the companies where I was, as you say, I was sharing Norwegian, the airline, and that's pretty rare, believe me, right? That the airline actually ends up paying dividend, right? But the company went down in 2021. I came in June 21, and then one of my targets was to bring the company to the point where we could pay a dividend, right? So we had a sizable dividend payment, I guess 1.5 years ago, and again in an airline that's pretty rare. I've also been in other companies, so I believe it's healthy actually for a company to pay dividend, even if it has a very attractive growth portfolio as we do have in Gold Road. So yeah, I think it will be a natural ambition to work towards becoming a dividend-paying company, because we should be able to run a positive cash flow. We should be able to grow the company, which will increase the cash flow even further. Most of our investment projects, or the investment projects that we have defined, are in modest scale, right? Given that, because we have the infrastructure. So I think all in all, the answer is yes, Jeremy. In the back of my head, I have some ideas on when it should be. Did not this year, but maybe next year. But that's not a promise.
That's exciting. And look, at the other great thing about Gold Road is you've got the whole complex within a 5-kilometer radius, haven't you? Everything's really well set up for you to open up new mines, or reopen the old mines, and just continue to increase the grade that goes through the mill. Do you think, Svein Harald, you will ever expand the mill above the permitted 1,000 tons a day, or what's your thinking there? I mean, that would obviously take you to another level as well.
No, so first, this is also remarkable, and thanks for bringing up the point, Jeremy, that there's been mining activity here, right, since, I guess, the 1860, right? But it was all cut up in different claims, right, and tenements. I believe this is the first time ever where all the main parts of the vein system is held by one owner, by Gold Road. And there are people who actually have been working to consolidate this from hundreds of packages into one big package. And then all this has then been acquired over the last couple of years, and we are doing the last part of that journey, so that we now, and it's very important, right? Because we have had discussions on why haven't they developed. We have one project in our portfolio called the Gap, where there has been drilling, drill holes has been drilled into the what's called the true vein. Gold has been found, but it wasn't developed historically. And one reason was that it was straight on the border between two claims, right? And then we have another area called the lost segment, which also might hold, because it's a continuous vein system, but in the continuous vein system there was one part where there was called disputed ownership rights, right? So again, even in 2020-21, like a geomagnetic survey was conducted, and I asked, why haven't you guys analyzed it? And they said, why should we analyze it? Because we didn't know whether we owned the property. So this is super important, Jeremy, right? That, yeah. So with this, and it's even actually more interesting, because we not only do we own the Gold Road mine, not only have we rolled up kind of all the most relevant acreage position in the whole what's called Oatman mining district, which is one of the largest mining districts in the U.S. But in addition to that, as I said, we are the only operating dedicated high recovery processing plant in the entire Arizona, right? I haven't looked at Nevada, but now some people are calling us and say, "Can you guys help us? Can you do tolling and so on?" Right? And we are open for business, right? To be clear, right? So if anyone has a good project, a good grade, because we are happy to have those kind of discussions. With that, as of now, I think we are already, by the way, expanding the capacity of the mill. We are putting in a second filter press line, next or this month, which has been the main bottleneck. We are upgrading the ball mill, which of course has been one of our issues over the last couple of months. We have identified kind of a debottlenecking plan. We need to change some pipes here and pipes there. So all that is in progress, and then of course, as we bring in more ore and we prioritize the underground ore because that has a high grade, one day it might fill up the plant. But by the time we get there, then we have a very, very sizable and attractive operation.
It's a really compelling investment case, Svein, Harald. Like for 60 million, you're getting all of that. And, you kind of forget, I kind of forgot that, when we bought the mine, half the tenements weren't in the group, and you put all those new tenements back together. So you really have the biggest district in the whole of the state. And there are a lot of these exploration companies around us with a fraction of the ground that we have that have 100, 200 million market caps and don't have a mill, don't have the infrastructure. So, the potential of Gold Road is unbelievable. Like, I really think it's going to be the hottest new listing in Oslo this year. And, it was so amazing what you put together.
Yeah, thanks for that. That I cannot say. You can say it, Jeremy. I cannot, of course, but And of course, we have the discussion, how much should we say about our plans, but I think sometimes it's better just to start to do the hard work, and then, knock on wood, it turns out, and people then eventually say, okay, this makes sense, and we are happy to be part of that journey.
It's been very exciting to watch it. Gold Road was the first project that I worked on when I came on board just about a year and a month ago, actually, with Chancery. So I'm quite familiar with the project, but it's been pretty crazy to watch it just in the matter of a year and a month. Now it's listed, and you guys have done just an incredible job with bringing it up to that level. And we had Jim on as well on Old Gold here, and that was a really great episode because we kind of got a little bit of in-depth knowledge there about the Oatman district and about the mine itself. So that was pretty interesting. But it's been a pretty cool journey and a very exciting experience to watch it all over the last year. come to this. Basically, we just listed. So just amazing the job that you guys have done.
Just as a reminder, we were also very proud that Chancery does have the silver royalty on Gold Road. It's a fraction of the revenue stream because gold, it's mainly a gold business, but we do get the life of mine silver from Gold Road. So the more gold that Svein Harald produces, the more silver we will receive. And I think there's kind of a ratio for 1 ounce of gold, you get 2 ounces of silver. I'm not sure. We'll see how it goes, but definitely a very important royalty for Chancery. So we're really, we're really hope that Svein Harald delivers, and I think he will, much more than the official targets that they've put out there. And I think he will. I think this is such an incredible story. Very well capitalized now. Amazing management team, and couldn't be more proud, could we, Eric, that Gold Road's part of our portfolio of royalties in Chancery.
Absolutely. Yeah. Something that is very exciting for us. And we are very proud of it.
No, well, thank you very much, Harold. If anyone wants to, please follow Gold Road on the Norway Oslo Børs. Recommend you watch that closely. It could be a very hot stock this year. Eric, also, I'll let you do the closing remarks for Chancery. But yeah, really appreciate the time today, mate. It's just such an honour. And I must say, if anyone ever gets up to Oslo, which is, I mean, let's be honest, Norway is one of the great countries in the world. They also have a brilliant football team. We're gunning for them. But if you do stay at the Bristol Hotel, it has the world's best breakfast. Is that fair to say, Svein Harald? The Bristol Hotel in Oslo has the best breakfast I've ever eaten.
Yeah, I believe so. It's for some reason the Norwegian hotels, they really compete on the quality of their breakfast. So I think most of them have really excellent breakfast, and I believe Bristol, of course, has a lot of history. It's an excellent hotel, and yeah, I can also recommend it as a hotel. It's the midst of the city center, and as you said, these days the city center is crazy because we are celebrating the progress in the World Cup, and let's hope that continues for a while. So.
Excellent. Svein Harald, I want to thank you again for taking some time aside and joining us today. It's been really exciting watching the progress of Gold Road over the last year to be finally listed. So I want to, as Jeremy said, I want to remind everybody to watch Gold Road on the Oslo Børs Exchange. It's going to be a pretty hot stock, especially once gold starts springing up again. So also the links for Chancery Royalty are going to be down below in the description. If you're interested, that round is still open. So hit us up, and somebody from the team will get back to you, and we'll get you all the information that you need. So I think that is it for today. This has been a great episode for the week. So thank you again, Svein Harald. It's been great to hear from you, and we're really grateful for your time. So until next week, everybody, this is Old Gold signing out.